introductions together. Okay, cool. We are live. Uh,
Yay.
Good morning, everybody, or good evening. It could be good afternoon. Time they say is, like an illusion anyway. So thank you for joining us. My name is Tiffany Hill Cook. I run a spiritual practice called the Healing Hill. And on Sundays, it is about resources. It's about information. And sometimes I have guest speakers. Today, we have Alisé. Did I say that correctly?
You
Préjéan?
said it right.
Okay, cool. I met Alisé probably a few months ago through somebody that you did some work with. And she had gotten an astral and natal chart reading from you. And so I decided to sign up for it. It was, I'm still digesting the information, to be quite honest. It's one of those things that you can like reference multiple times and get something new from it. But I know that you are multifaceted and multidimensional. So would you mind introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. So as you said, Alisé A Préjéan, and you can call me Elise as well.
Okay.
And let's see. Let me know if you can hear water bubbling in the background. Can you hear that? Okay.
No.
I have one of those teapots that just kind of like keeps it warm for you, and I meant to
Oh,
turn that off.
hey.
So let me
Oh,
know if it becomes just, interfering with the sound.
not at
Um,
all.
so, Alisé Préjéan, I've had my healing arts practice since I basically started massage school in 1999. So that's how I started out in the healing arts is with massage, and really astrology was an interest for me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't, delve deeply into it until later. And, when I got into massage, I knew that because massage is so physical, that I want to start adding to my toolkit at some point.
Yeah.
And so after I practiced massage for about, I would say, oh gosh, 20, well, no, 11 years or so. Um, I I got an astrology reading, and then I got several astrology readings, and I actually felt that astrology was, I always say it's like mind massage. Um because it's ultimately it's the study of consciousness.
Mm.
And really it's consciousness that is expressed through the body.
Mm.
And so studying astrology was a great supplement to my massage practice. And I then went on to study regression therapy, which is a really amazing therapeutic tool as well. And I also studied nutrition. So I started just adding to this tool bag of really understanding how to take care of ourselves. That's how I see it. Understanding the body, understanding consciousness, and then therefore how to take care of ourselves based on that understanding. And so that's been my passion for a really long time because ultimately I really wanted to know myself. I really wanted to understand myself. And so that's where, my website is knowthyselfandheal.com. So that's where I got that. And so yeah, so now I've been, as far as astrology, I would say astrology is my first and foremost passion at the moment, as far as all of the healing tools that I've studied. Um, and what was I going to say? That's kind of my focus, I guess, at the moment, where I do still do massage. I do some regression, but it's mostly astrology, because I just feel so passionate about it as a healing tool. So yeah, so does that answer the question thoroughly?
It does. And it creates more for me. So I'm wondering, did you grow up having, so what I find, so one of my life purposes is to help people fall back in love with themselves.
Mm,
And part of that purpose came from the fact that I didn't love myself.
mm,
And so a lot of times I meet people that their purpose was almost the antithesis of what they experienced. It was the opposite of what they experienced in younger years. So have you always felt connected to your body? Have you always wanted to, know yourself deeply? Or was it that you at one point in time felt disconnected from who you were and your body?
Great question.
Mm.
I do think that those of us that get into the healing realm actually are exploring from places where we recognize there's a gap to be filled, where we recognize more understanding is necessary. Um, and so, when I was really young, like I grew up in a home where, like religion wasn't really a part of our lives. And my parents were really like I want to say liberal or giving in the sense that, they were like, we have a connection to God, source, whatever you call that. But it's
Mhm.
really about you finding that connection. What is meaningful for you and your connection to the creator, So they gave me a lot of free reign in my own exploration, which I think is really wise.
Yeah.
Um, and so I I found, I mean, my grandparents did, I remember going to my grandmother's house and I'd stay with her for like a week. And every night she would be saying the Lord's Prayer, right? And I would
Yeah.
hear her. She would say it out loud. I hear her every night. And that was like I would sleep with her in her bed, and she would say that. And so it was around me, like just having this some devotional practice or some interest in our connection to our deeper part of ourselves.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I really believe that, we cannot even be separated from source. We cannot be
No.
separated from the creator. It's, we can only experience the idea of separation, but we cannot be separated because we are
100%.
literally infused
Yeah. Yeah.
in and out, through and
Yeah.
through, right? Um, but just to I was submerged in some people's personal experience of connecting, And so I remember as a child, every night, I would literally go through every part of my day and,
Oh,
and pray about it and just be like, oh, no, I would have liked to have done it in this thing in a better way, you know, in however I was responding to whatever was happening in my life. And so I remember just being really devoted to
mm,
my own creative
mhm.
expression ultimately,
Yeah.
and through the form of prayer. And then I went through experiences in my life where I did get introduced to different church and religions and things, and got the exploration
Yeah.
of really that was really helpful in regards to my own, again, exploration and seeding of my relationship to myself and to the creator, which is, as my astrology teacher has said, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
Your relationship to yourself is a
Yeah.
relationship you have to the creator. Your relationship to the creator is a relationship you have with yourself, and that's true, right? So it's always been in the forefront of my mind, is like this relationship
Yeah.
to the creator and to my own creative expression in
Wow.
life. And so I've always been interested in that. And I will say, so what got me into the healing arts initially was I was in a car accident and I fractured my pelvis. And I had also had trauma in my upbringing, through different experiences, sexual trauma. And so it's kind of not surprising that then I would be in a car accident. Not that it always equates to that, but
Yeah.
it was kind of bringing the attention of,
Yeah.
this particular aspect in my own
This
body, which
area.
is
Yeah.
our body is an expression of our consciousness.
Yeah.
It's a projection of our consciousness.
Yeah.
And so when I really believe through my studies,
Mm,
whatever is showing up in
yeah.
our body, in the outside world, is bringing our attention to this aspect of our consciousness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I had experienced trauma, um, physical trauma, in different ways. And when
Mm,
that car accident happened, I I was only like 19, and then after that, I ended up um, I did get a settlement,
okay.
and what I used because I had been injured, so there was a settlement. So I was gifted money
Yeah.
to basically continue any kind of um, healing
Yeah.
modalities I wanted to address uh, this healing fracture, right? And so I ended up my boyfriend gave me my first massage for my a birthday present, and I
Mm,
got a massage, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've got to have this in my life." And so because I had gotten this settlement, I'm like, "You know what? I'm gonna not only get a lot of body work,
yeah.
but I'm gonna learn body."
Got it. Wow.
And so that's what got me into massage, which is very, typical of
Mm,
massage therapists. You'll find
yep.
they had some kind of injury or something that got them interested. So then I practiced massage for, quite a while. And then, as I said, I knew I wanted to keep adding to my toolkit. And
Mm,
astrology had always been interesting to me, but I really didn't know how to learn it.
yeah.
And so that's the only reason why I didn't go further. And
Mm,
then actually, I had, some pretty serious trauma happening, at around 2010, 2011 with my partner at the time, who's the father of my daughter. And so I was like, I have to understand why I would attract this into my life,
mhm, mm,
because really ultimately I don't have control over my partner or the situation, but I do have control over
mm,
understanding what is going on with me, just individually, as to why I would be experiencing this. So I started seeking out astrologers, and I got a reading from a woman in the area, and then I started looking. I was like, okay, I gotta look into this. This is incredible. And and then I started searching for schools, and I found my teacher, and I connected with her, and she basically sent me a video on my sun sign of her teaching about my sun sign, which is Virgo. And I watched that video, and I was like, this woman is a healer. She is it, and she has proven to be such an incredible healer. Uh, and, really a healer through uh, explaining and expressing consciousness through words. And I really have always felt like, and I have to say, one of the things that I feel is beautiful about my father, for example, my mother too, in ways, but particularly my father, was I was exposed through them just this beautiful capacity to deeply communicate. And I got the opportunity to recognize how words, can open you up or
yeah.
shut you down.
Yeah.
And I'm really sensitive to that,
Yeah.
which I think part of that is Virgo being Mercury ruled, because Mercury is how we process
Okay.
information as well as not only perceive, but communicate information as well.
Okay.
So that's where, from then, it was such a profound healing tool in understanding what was happening in my life, in understanding how to navigate that in the best possible way, not only for myself but for my daughter and for my partner at the time. So it was interestingly, even in traumatic experiences, and this is what I found from studying trauma, is that it is shocking, and it is confusing, and it is something that can actually have us disassociate in order to cope.
Yeah.
But through the process of loving ourselves enough to do whatever healing work we feel guided to do,
Yeah.
that is when we actually are able to integrate something new about ourselves we never knew,
Yeah.
and integrate something new that can be a really a healing um, vibration that we bring to humanity. And so, even though, you know, trauma is something that I think people can fear that, we all have it in some way, shape, or form. And we can recognize that it actually can give us a gift if we're willing to show up for ourselves in that, right?
With
And
time.
yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah.
In astrology, the signature for trauma is Uranus as well as Chiron, but
Okay.
particularly Uranus. And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and it co-rules Aquarius with Saturn. And so, you know, Saturn and Uranus is associated with time and timing.
Okay.
It's how we structure our consciousness, so how we structure and measure time and
Okay.
timing.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's really about when we experience traumas, we actually can actually access insights that we wouldn't have had
Mm.
before, and in different times and timing of processing the information that we get from the traumatic experiences. Not to say that we want to invite trauma into our lives, no,
Correct.
because it's it is something that we have to actually work towards reintegration, right?
Yeah.
So
Reframing
we don't
your
we don't want to
mhm.
be overwhelmed, and so I'm not saying, oh
Go
yeah,
find
it's all
go
great.
find Kate the shittiest guy, go put yourself on a financial strain, whatever
Yeah.
would you know. Well, I want to read this quote to you because I found this the other day. It must have been months ago, but I just found this notebook today. And it's a quote by Anthony DeMello. It says, "Nothing and nobody has ever hurt you. Not even yourself has hurt you. It's your conditioning that has what a glorious opportunity to reprogram your perspective. You're really seeing people as you are, not as they are."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So that must have resonated whenever I wrote that down, however long ago. Yeah.
Oh, and that's so beautiful for the transits we've been having. And when I say transits, I just mean where the planets are moving in the
Okay.
sky. Therefore, in our own charts,
Okay.
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because it is about deconditioning right now.
Okay.
The collective is deconditioning because we have
Okay.
Saturn in Pisces and
Okay.
Neptune in Pisces.
Okay.
And,
Tell
we
me more
just
about
actually,
that. Tell me more about that.
sure. Yeah. So Pisces is the last sign of the wheel of consciousness or zodiac.
Okay.
So it's like the culmination of an entire cycle in consciousness,
Okay.
where the cycle begins with Aries, how we've
Yeah.
emerged
Okay.
from what I see Pisces as the cosmic womb, where things
Okay.
have dissolved, but also where anything is possible as well, right? So we emerge out of that into Aries. We initiate new things with our Aries consciousness, or Mars, our masculine, how we
Yeah.
act on our own needs and desires, right? And we go through this cycle of consciousness, which is actually just one thing, but it's different angles of looking at the one thing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Aries to Taurus,
Yeah.
it's just energy, but looking at it from a different angle. That's how I see it. Not
Okay.
everyone would describe it that way, but that's how I see it in my overtime and learning and understanding the wheel. And so we initiate new things, and then as we move through all the signs, we move into Pisces, and this is the results, and this is why
Mm,
Pisces can be our ideals,
mm,
how we've actually created our dream life, you know?
mm.
Um,
And
it's
that's
our
the energy we're
dream.
in right now.
Yes, this is
Okay.
Sun in Pisces. Sun is in Pisces now.
Okay.
Now, we also have Saturn in Pisces,
Okay.
Mercury in Pisces, and also Neptune in Pisces.
Okay.
Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, and Neptune takes 164 years to go through the entire sky or the wheel. So the fact that we're experiencing Neptune and Pisces individually and collectively is really special.
Just got good.
Um, yes, it's really special, and it's ultimately Neptune in Pisces is going to assist us to dissolve the any collective ideas that we've been submerged in that are no longer relevant for us, that is no longer resonant for us because we have grown, we've
Mhm.
matured, we've expanded and integrated more consciousness as we've lived, right? And so Saturn in Pisces with Neptune in Pisces is really about um, how we've been in this collective dream based on the ways we've perceived
Yeah,
reality,
yeah.
perceived information, created beliefs based on those perceptions, and then structured our consciousness based on those perceptions, right? And beliefs as well. Now we have the opportunity. And by the way, I just want to say, so when we're born into this world, we're just naturally submerged into this sea of consciousness that is encoded with ideas and beliefs of those people, places, things we've been around. So
Mhm.
culturally and societally, familial as well, or in our family line as well, right? So Saturn and Neptune moving through Pisces is where we're getting to dissolve those ideas that, as I said, are no longer resonant, that would be inhibiting making our dreams a reality. What's really genuine in on our heart, what we really want to experience as spirits, you know, as a spirit
Yeah,
and a conduit of spirit or soul or the divine. So Pisces is the culmination of the entire zodiac, where it can be our dreams come into reality or our ideals coming into reality. It can also be our fantasies. And
yeah,
fantasies are just visions that we haven't acted upon, that
yeah,
we keep in the mind,
yeah.
and where we can create delusions or,
Mm.
um, you know, we're not basing things in reality, our
Okay.
dreams or, bringing the fantasy into grounded Virgo earth plane,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and there's something else I wanted to say. Let me see if I can capture it.
Take your time.
And so not only can we be seeing, oh, okay, this has been a fantasy, right? It's not really working for me in the real world, right? This is a fantasy.
Mhm.
And this is important to remember as we talk about these upcoming or these transits that are happening now. But then also, it can be our nightmares. So this can be like what we, are afraid of.
Mm.
And so,
I have a question real quick.
yeah,
So
yeah.
are you connecting essentially that our thoughts become things? And that at this time, like what we like, if we're focusing on fear, like scarcity, I'm not going to have any money, I'm not going to have any money, I'm not going to have any money, I'll be broke. Then that, like that, with these energies in particular, I don't want to say it's a quicker manifestation, but that's how it's going to be connecting. Is that how you would connect those two?
I think when we experience thoughts, I think it's important to recognize, because what I see is that the more uh, the more we expand our consciousness, the
Yep.
more aware of consciousness we're going to be.
100%.
And this means we're going to become not only more aware of positive and the positive,
Okay.
but we're also going to become more aware of the negative.
Okay.
So we can experience negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And if we can look at, okay, if I'm having a thought that I'm not going to make enough money, I can
Yeah.
never make enough money. Then we can look at that and go, well, what belief produces that
Mm.
thought?
Ah, beautiful. What programming, what conditioning. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then we can go, oh, well, then I would have to think that I'm not supported.
Yeah.
But does it really make sense that creation wouldn't support itself? Where have
Yeah.
I picked that up?
Yeah. Mm.
And then we could look at, well, then am I acting on those thoughts? And recognizing as well that if I'm thinking that, we can utilize that as an opportunity
Yeah.
and be thankful. Oh, wow, I'm aware I'm having that thought. What belief does that stem from? I'd like to dismantle that. Where
Yeah.
am I acting upon that thought
Yeah.
or not acting on what would produce
Yes.
resources for me? But
Yes.
another thing is then we could utilize that thought and go, oh, well, how could I open up my mind and recognize where I am being supported? Whether
Mm.
it's from money, but money is not the only abundance, right? It's also
Shelter.
information. It's
Uh,
our relationships with people.
yeah.
It's our neighborhood, our community, um
Yeah.
our teachers, our um what everything that is in our life is actually okay, so this is really fascinating is that when we understand that all of creation, because time is something that's man made,
Correct.
we have to function in the 3D realm, right? And so therefore we begin to it's like the way I see it is we're in a slowed down magnify like we are magnifying our focus in the process of creation itself.
Okay.
We're really like looking at it in a magnifying glass. And so
Mm.
it's like slowed down. And so in that, all possibilities and all of creation, all scenarios already exist. It's
Yeah.
really a matter of this is free will.
Yeah.
We are co-creators. It is a matter of how we act upon our own consciousness. So, how
Yeah.
we perceive things and then
Yeah.
how we act upon it. So, we could utilize a negative thought and go, okay, well, you know, if this is not something desirable for me,
Yeah.
and if I don't desire it, it means it's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because our desires are stemming from our heart chakra and our soul, right? Then we can then go, okay, this is conditioning.
Yeah.
What belief, where did I pick this up?
Yeah.
Or, when did I pick this up?
Yeah.
Whatever investigative process is natural for each individual, right? But
Yeah.
then looking around our own lives and going, well, where is that not true? Where is it that I am being supported? Where
Yeah.
is it that resources are flowing toward me? So we can utilize that. So, I find I have because uh, I used to be really concerned about thoughts or things because I'm like, oh my God, I had a negative thought. Oh my God, is it going to manifest? And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, there was a time in my life after I'd had my baby where I just went through this. It was just, I think I did look up the transits that were happening in my chart and it made sense. I think there was something going on in Taurus Scorpio when this happened, but there was like at least a year where I just, whatever fear whatever fear I had ever harbored ever in my life was
Yeah.
coming up into my conscious awareness. And, I was a new mother. I was like concerned my baby was going to feel that, like me going through this turmoil, right? And so I really didn't know what to do about that. And I at the time I hadn't started studying astrology, so it would have been a great tool. But what's beautiful is that what I realize is like I have to recognize that these fears that are coming up are actually just showing me what I love and what I value, what I have gratitude for in my life. And so I started flipping it. And every time I would have a fear, I'd be like, what is it showing me? Oh, it's showing me that I really value with this. So I would then just start thinking, thank you so much for having been in my life. And I know that as long as it serves me, it will be. And
Yeah.
I can trust. that
Yeah.
whatever comes and goes in my life is actually to support
Yeah.
my own growth, my own expansion and consciousness. So I would keep doing that, and then it completely went away.
Mm,
So
mm,
this shows you, and this is like a great, I think a great example of how energy is just energy.
mhm.
When we look at the wheel of consciousness, we're looking at one thing. Even though there's 12 signs and there's
Mhm,
all these different planets,
mhm.
it's one thing working together,
Yeah.
looking and being able to see from a different angle
Yeah.
in consciousness. And so we can see more holistically.
Mm,
And so energy is energy. Therefore, it's it's expressing our love nature.
mm.
I mean, ultimately it always is, but fear is only distorting.
Yeah.
It's only actually taking energy and distorting it into a different configuration.
Yeah.
So you can see that fear is just expressing what you love. So
Yeah.
however, fear can be like, well, am I trusting myself?
Yeah.
Am I trusting in what I love? You know? So there's these ways that we can kind of work with negativity and negative thoughts that actually can then serve us to better understand ourselves, our own consciousness, and actually expand our consciousness to focus and create what we love.
I love that you say that because I don't know if you um, saw the quote on the newsletter that I had sent out. And it literally, where was it? Um, Fear is not real. The only thing that is real is love. And that's a
Yep.
Dolores Cannon quote.
Yes, I did see that.
Like, that's just so, I clearly love quotes. They resonate with me. They're just profound for me. It's just really cool that this is how the conversation's going, you know? I think
Yeah.
I've never actually viewed, like, that's unlocked something in my DNA, because I've never viewed fear as rooted in love, but as
Mm,
a way in which to covet or protect or hold on to or defend from this thing that we're perceiving that we're going to lose, or again whatever the story is. um,
mhm.
I almost think about, so if I'm understanding, and we've talked about a lot, but I get that we have 12 months a year and that December is technically the end of the year, but I'm almost taking that Pisces is kind of like December.
Yes.
Like that's
So, really, the end of the year being in December is the Gregorian calendar.
okay.
Um, the way that I like to see it, because it, for me, resonates more around understanding how we create.
Okay.
I look at the astrological new
Yeah.
year as being the real new year because it's based on um, archetypes and the seasons.
Yeah.
Um, so at the spring equinox, the sun will be at 0 Aries. And that is like emerging out of the womb, out of the results. Remember, the end of the year, out of the results of what we've initiated since the last spring equinox. And
Yeah.
then we emerge out of the womb again into building the next layer of what we've already built, or actually building seeding something entirely new,
Yeah.
initiating something entirely new in our own momentum of
Yeah.
evolution. So yeah, so Pisces to me is really the end of the year. And
It's
I think
so,
it,
oh, please, please.
sorry, I was going to say, I think it helps to actually orient our minds more that way,
Yeah.
to be more effective creators. Not that we're not effective necessarily with the Gregorian,
Yeah.
but as far as understanding how to create,
Yeah.
or understanding the natural
Yeah.
ebb and flows of the creative process, I think looking to the astrological new year can be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Well, and even where we live, it's springtime, right? Like think about spring. I mean, I'm driving home the other day and all of these dandelion, or not dandelions, daffodils, these bulbs, tulips, they're all starting to pop out of the ground. You can see like whether it's rhododendrons or azaleas. There's all of these bulbs on these plants as well that are just, waiting to be awoken. It's so interesting that you talk about like seeds being, I don't know, let's say manifested physically. I am so excited. Yesterday, I went and I finally found retail space for my business.
Oh my
And so
gosh,
I
that's
know.
so
Um,
exciting.
it is so exciting. And so I believe, I mean, I haven't signed paperwork or anything like that, but I feel confident in it. It's mine. So April 1st, I'll have some office space in Arlington where I live. And so what's bizarre is if I would have been offered this opportunity 6 months ago, it just wouldn't have been the right time. I wouldn't have felt confident in it. I wouldn't, it just would have been a no. And it's an absolute like fuck yeah today. So it's just really exciting. So
Oh, that's very exciting.
it really is. So and I
April
get to make it
1st.
my own. So um,
Yes.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, it's gonna be. I just can't. I can't stop smiling about.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah,
next level.
it really
Definitely.
is. I'm so excited. Yeah, just to see, and it's got 4 offices as a part of it. So,
Wow.
I'll be able to, and it's in a newer building, which is really nice, a secured building. So I'm looking forward to potentially partnering with other healers or, individuals that want to, express their soul in some dimension, to be a part of it as well. So to be continued. And, it's just, I spent so many years of my life in the matrix, and there's still components of myself that are in the matrix or in the, the 3D. But it's like once you start to understand that anything is possible, and that, quite literally there is a law of attraction, and I am the director and the writer and the producer and the actor of
Yeah.
my world. It's like, oh, I don't like how this is going, okay, let's get some new actors in, or let's rewrite the
Yeah.
script,
Yeah.
etc. And so it's just, I just have a virility for life that I, before it was like life was heavy and it was a little bit exhausting. And not in the sense of being like, not wanting to be here or exist here, because this isn't home for us. We're just here for a little bit of time. It's just like a blink. Home is the spirit world. But it was just kind of like, I thought life was a bitch and then you died kind of a deal. And it's just, I
Mhm.
have this entirely different experience, reverence, gratitude for life at this point in time. And I just want everyone at whatever clip they're at to be able to know that and to remember that and to be able to experience that. Because I mean, what would the world look like if we all, allowed ourselves to, be whoever we wanted to be and do whatever we wanted to do? It would be really cool.
Well, I think that that's what we're designed to do. Um, but and that's where I love the Neptune in Pisces because
Yeah.
that has been since 2011, been moving through Pisces and it's been dissolving these old ideas that we're not designed for this whatever it is our desires are. I mean, I think that there's a lot of I know at least witnessed the idea that desires are something that how do I say this? Like that just because you desire it doesn't mean that you can have it.
Yeah.
And there is this level where of course, there's the ego,
Yeah.
and the
Yep.
ego is
Lust.
what can
Or,
be conditioned, you know?
yeah.
And sometimes our desires can be coming and stemming from conditionings. So which means, yes, we can build our life based on these conditionings of what we think we want.
Yeah.
But usually we'll through the series of transits that we typically all go through,
Mhm.
we will eventually come often with the Uranus opposition, which is around between 40 and 42, is where often they call it the midlife crisis, where we've built all these things based on desires
Yeah.
that we thought were ours, but we were conditioned to believe that that was what our desires were. But our
Yeah.
real desires, let's really going to bring us joy and passion and excitement and like ultimately our essential self,
Yeah.
like without all the conditionings that's been layered on top. But when we decondition and we actually really connect with our heart, our truest heart's desires, we're designed to live that experience as a contribution and service to the collective as well. And so, to be of service, really, it is being of service to actually be super happy in your life and your desires being fulfilled and you getting to learn from the experience of experiencing those desires fulfilled. And what does it really how does that create meaning in your life? How does it inform you? There's a reason we desire things, and that is our soul pulling us, go here, go here. It may not look like what you think it's going to look like, but it's
Correct.
part of the journey to get you
Yep.
to where you are going to be of the greatest benefit in your own life as well as the lives of others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, thank you, Vanessa. She just shared such an amazing point. Our joy is service to others.
Yes, and isn't it interesting how I mean, I feel like we have gone through this, collective conditioning that, that our lives need to be hard or I
Yeah.
mean, hard in a way, like, that's actually not valuing our limitations, meaning the limitations on the body and on the mind, doing things we don't love.
Yeah.
Often we've been taught to do things we don't love or do things in a specific way rather than the way that actually is more fulfilling for us.
Yeah.
Um, and trusting that process that it's not you do this, then you do this, then you do this
Yeah.
to meet the goal, right? We all have our own way of doing things, and that's where, I feel like that's part of the deconditioning that can happen now is that doing things when we feel joyful about doing it, and that's actually when our highest capacity, our highest vibration comes out. And
Yes.
that's what we want to be giving the world, you know?
Yeah.
So, I'm working with that in my own life right now is recognizing where I can actually really pay attention to how if I am not wanting to do this, how that affects my body,
Yeah.
and how, if I overwork or I'm overstressed, that how that's affecting my body, therefore how it's affecting my vibration, therefore how it's affecting the results, right? So,
It's
yeah.
so, and this, I really want to be careful of even how I say this because I want it to be like in the form of observation as opposed to judgment. Um, how do I, well, I'll just speak as opposed to talking about a specific person is, the way what we feed our body. And it doesn't have to be like just everything is like, raw and organic and, like nourishing however we want to in that moment, allowing ourselves to have things. I used to, eating was such an anxious experience because I had disordered eating for so long. And I just look back and I'm like, the food had all of this anxiety. I mean, all of this was just, it was emanating out of me. But something that you said at the beginning, and literally as you were speaking, I probably like tapped into the collective consciousness. I mean, I was overwhelmed with emotion around the fact that, I mean, the body is a physical manifestation of consciousness. And it's like, and where I got this emotion from was like how many people unnecessarily experience sadness every day. And spirit just corrected me. It's not unnecessary because it's part of their conscious experience, but
Mm.
that, that it could be different for them. And
Hmm.
and and it will be someday for them.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
part of the process of getting to that and the holistic point of view, because I do think that being aware, and I say this with, people in their astrology readings, that, all of these archetypes, all of these planets, there's always going to be a productive side, something that enhances energy, it it produces energy, it generates energy. And then there's what we would call the shadow or the dark side, which is really just things we don't know yet, we haven't
Yeah.
learned yet, but it debilitates consciousness. It actually debilitates us, it diminishes our energy. And so, yeah, I think that sometimes when we experience negativity or um, the unproductive, it
Yeah.
can be a valuable, all things can be valuable, where then you're like, okay, now I understand this holistically.
Yeah.
So whenever we've experienced our own shadow, we can
Yeah.
recognize, oh, that's part of wisdom.
Yeah.
We can't we In order to really understand something completely, we
Yeah.
have to look at both sides of it, right? And so even that process can be
Yeah.
part of it. Is it necessary? I mean, I guess it is if we go there, right? And
Yeah.
that's where we can trust ourselves, no matter where we find ourselves in consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we can love ourselves and just
Yeah.
recognize this is part of the process
Yeah.
of actually mastering this energy. I cannot master this energy if I don't experience what debilitates it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an important piece, I feel.
I I wonder what your thoughts are then. This is like taking a little bit of a pivot, but this is what spirit just uh what brought up in my mind was what your thoughts are around how do I want to say this? So light and dark existing, and some people, whether it's intentional or not, their role in keeping our consciousness unexpanded, whether it be like in the form of the type of foods that we eat. Like the wheat in America is illegal in the
Mhm,
rest of the
mhm.
world. People go on
Yeah.
vacation in Italy and they eat pasta and bread and they lose weight. And
Uh,
so and that's just food is just one aspect of it. I would say the
mhm,
news, there's a variety of levers that almost can keep us muddied and
mhm.
heavier um, in a fear state versus an expanded state. And maybe you don't even think about those types of things, but do you have any thoughts on that
Mm, I
and the
do.
influence
Yeah.
it has?
Yeah. I mean, what I loved about going through this nutrition program that I went through is that they taught me to look at everything ultimately as consuming.
Yeah,
So everything, every aspect of our life, we are consuming consciousness.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
what's the quality of that consciousness? Because you are taking it in. So
yeah,
our relationships, you're consuming that quality of consciousness and you're digesting it. We digest information just like the digestion in our bodies.
yeah,
I mean, ultimately, the intestines are
yeah,
basically just sorting out information. Oh, okay, here's this food. Well, here's vitamin K and here's vitamin D. Let's like sort this out and put it in its proper places where it can be effectively used or let go of because it can't be useful and therefore would be toxic.
yeah,
So um I love understanding it in that way. And
mhm,
the thing is, when I think about what you're talking about, like with the food, it's a great example
yeah,
because we can see that example in such a vivid way with food, but it's in the news, it's everywhere, right? And so when we look at food and how people are actually willing to put a population's health at risk because it's been proven that, corn syrup does this to your digestion or whatever it is. Um, the thing about that I see is that what we're observing is people in a state of fear because people um, that are willing to compromise specific standards in order to make to their idea of survival and thrival
yeah, yeah,
is actually someone who doesn't trust that they are supported otherwise.
yeah, Yeah.
someone that has learned
Yeah.
that idea.
Yeah.
And, remember that the outside world is only going to reflect the inside world, just like what you said.
Yeah.
Everyone in our lives, in that quote, everyone out there is our version of them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we cannot help but project our consciousness onto them,
Yeah.
which is an important piece in this time frame because of the nodes of the moon and the eclipses being in Aries and Libra. This is the axis in consciousness in our own charts in the sky, in the archetypal archetypes that have to do with projection.
Okay.
Okay, and so we all project. We can't help but project. Uh, and one thing I was thinking about too, this is a little bit of a side note, but it's just something that came to mind when you were speaking earlier, is that all of the earth signs are yin signs. What is yin? Yin is energy moving inward. It's our consciousness moving inward. So instead of projecting our consciousness out, because this is what we do, Aries, project consciousness out. Taurus, now like let's go inside and think about how we just projected our consciousness out. Did that work for us? So yin, earth is yin. So our
Mm.
own version of earth is actually internal.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
what we see, what we project out, we'll get the reflection back. And that's the opportunity to see, well, what is unconscious in us? Now
Yeah.
it can become conscious.
Yeah.
And now we can see, well, do we want to make some adjustments?
Yeah.
And then we get to know ourselves more because we're like, oh, did I buy into some idea that, this or that or whatever? Um, and by the way, I think this idea can sometimes be confusing for people because they're like, so if I'm getting a reflection from, say, somebody betrays me, does that mean I'm a betrayer?
No.
No. It just means that you're getting the opportunity to get the reflection on how well you can see betrayal
Mm.
and how you work with it, how you choose to
Yeah.
uh
Yep.
manage that kind of
Energy.
energy in
Yeah.
your life and
Yep.
then make the
Yep.
choice of
Yep.
not having betrayal be a part of your relationships in some way, shape, or manner.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that note because that is something that confused me in the past.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
through my own evolution have become to understand that.
Yeah.
And so we're always getting the reflections that uh, can help us to actually navigate and maybe even pivot in new directions.
Yeah. Something that Vanessa shared, which I thought is beautiful as well. Specifically, we were talking about food. She said, and with food, do you take it mindlessly? Blessing your food changes its structure and energy, such a different way of receiving versus consuming.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
well, you're developing a relationship with the food. I mean, the thing is that all I mean, I love this. We're so submerged in God, in consciousness itself.
Yeah,
Everything is conscious. It
yeah,
just is conscious in different ways. And
correct.
so the food that we consume is conscious. It's
Yeah,
literally made
yeah,
of consciousness.
yeah,
Nothing can even exist without consciousness. So
yeah.
I think really honoring it
100.
is actually uh, is really being sincere and
Mhm.
intentional
Yeah,
with your choice in consuming it, bringing it into your consciousness.
yeah.
One of the things that has come up for me in my life is just that whenever I take anything in, it's not me just experiencing it;
Mm.
it's experiencing me.
100%. I
Yes.
have this weird, it's not weird, but it's something that I do with avocados or things with seeds in particular. Whenever I open them, I always like say welcome because it's like they're in a new state. And I always
That's sweet.
kiss the seed, like as it's the mother, like that it created it.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like in that moment, I feel it and it feels me.
Mhm.
It's really beautiful. It's
Yes.
something I started a few years ago.
And
Yeah.
you're merging consciousnesses.
Yes. Yes.
So just as much as you're taking in
Yeah.
the avocado is taking you
Exact.
in.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
we're all doing this
Yeah.
with
I know.
everything,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so incredible. And again, we're all one thing,
Yeah. I
you
know.
know?
I know.
And to experience ourselves as quote unquote separate
Yeah.
is actually it's amazing. It's such a gift
Yeah. I had
to
this
be able
experience.
to
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Please go ahead. No, 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 please.
Just to be able to the experience of separation gives the gift of being able to really fully experience ourselves, in our consciousness and the process of consciousness. So I love it. Go ahead.
I experienced recently, how do I want to say this? I got a few, I get a few different newsletters from people, which I love. And I don't always read all of them, but most of them I do. And within the same day, so I'm working on creating a course as well. I just started a 6-month program. So at the end of 6 months, I will have a course for people to take. And it's the information I'm getting so far is it's going to be around mind, body, and soul, reframing the mind, reclaiming the body, and remembering who we are. In that same day, I got an email from one gal, and it was all about mind, body, soul, oneness. And then I got another one that was all about, and these people live in different parts of the world. They do different things. Um, and initially, I actually had some envy that like somebody's taking what I'm creating.
Oh
Like I
gosh.
had this, yeah, that was the initial feeling. I needed to feel it.
I
I
know.
needed,
I just say that because I've had that experience too, so I know.
and I was like, thieves, they're stealing. And then the next thing was, and this is I'm still working on integrating this, but I almost had this. So I'm like, fuck, I'm becoming more connected. Like our consciousness, right? Like, 3 different people who do different things, and all of us are doing a mind, body, soul something. Clearly the world needs this. And I almost had this yuck feeling in the sense of how connected we are. I don't know how else to describe it. I haven't fully discerned or uncovered the words. There's been a couple of times in my life where the angels have taken me to, I don't even know exactly where, because I only was there for like a nanosecond because the feeling was so overwhelming. But it was like I felt everyone's thoughts. It was like I felt utterly connected to everything, not separate in any way. And it scared the shit out of me, the level of connectedness I felt in that moment. And so um I I can tell that I'm still integrating what it means to be like my name is nothing. Like really, like this body is transient, my name is transient, my soul is eternal. And so there's definitely aspects I can even feel of shedding my this uniqueness or need to be different, or
Mm.
even coveting information so that nobody else has it. It's like, well, we all have access to this shit, you know what I mean? We all do. So that's just something that I am observing and experiencing in my little bubble of reality at this point in time. Yeah.
I've been doing the same thing, and I think it's probably maybe it's part of what we all go through when we actually are sharing
Mhm.
content and what we're passionate about and the ideas that we open up to. And I've had the same experience. I'm also working with that,
Yeah.
and I've had the experience where I've thought people were taking from me, and then
Yes.
I even just recently, so I write astrological updates on Substack,
Oh, okay.
and I've had this one that I was talking about this transit of on the February 28th where we were experiencing Mercury,
Yeah.
Cazimi the sun,
Okay.
um, Mercury conjunct Saturn,
Mm.
and Saturn conjunct the sun. And I'm doing that and then today Venus is in a last quarter square to Uranus and Taurus. So I'm
Okay.
writing about all of that. Okay. And it's actually taking me days. And I'm like, why is this taking so long? So it's gone through different
Yeah.
segments of doing it.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't take me that long to write something. And So interestingly, I'm so I have this draft going, and then one of my friends who's also an astrologer wrote something in on Facebook about some transits, and he used the same wording and metaphors that I was picking up on, and I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Do I take this out now cuz he's going to think I'm copying?" But we were tapping into the same
So
thing.
that's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so I've really had a challenging time with that because, I write a lot about astrological transits, and I've I've had a lot of instances, and some of them I think have been, someone kind of copying,
Yeah.
but I think ultimately it's been a thing that has come up that I've had to grapple with. I think as creators, we do have to kind of
Yeah.
look at that. And by the way, it might be a little bit different for people. I have Jupiter and Aquarius
Okay.
in my natal chart. And I think that's the part of me that is like, I want to provide a service that's unique.
Yeah.
No one else is doing it.
Yeah.
No one else is explaining it in this way. No, like
Yeah.
if something like fashion wise, if anything becomes popular, I might love it and love it on me, but I will absolutely not wear it if it's actually
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I
Uh,
will literally go away from anything that's popular. So because I want to be unique in some way. And that's an interesting piece that I'm still exploring about myself.
well, are you familiar with the Enneagram? Did we talk about this when we met?
I think we might have, uh, I
So
think we did briefly.
I would be curious for you. Um, I'm a number 3, so I have a 4
Mm,
wing.
mm,
4s are called the individualist,
mm,
and their core need. So my core need is to inspire. Type 4 core need is to be unique.
mm,
And for example, and they're normally, how do I want to describe force? They love the color crimson for whatever reason. That is like their
mm,
flag color, that maroony crimson color. But some examples for fours, and this will either resonate deeply or it won't, is if you had a school uniform. Fours are like, I'm not wearing what everybody else is wearing. If there's a line of people, like line up, it's like, you want me to stand in line with everybody else? No, 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 no. I don't stand in line
mm,
with everybody else. And they want to almost be invited in. Um, they are phenomenal at the flow of things, the way things should be organized or look. It's like an innate quality of theirs. They're excellent potentiators. Like they're excellent at seeing potential in others that others maybe don't even see in themselves.
yeah.
They are artists. There's a little bit of almost like depression in a type 4, but it's not in the sense of like, I'm depressed, but it's like they like to use words like pathetic. And there's just like a deepness to a type 4 that's almost a sadness, but it's part of their expression of life. Um, and they really are like, they're the epitome of feminine in all of there's 9 types in the Enneagram.
Mm,
Type 4 is the most feminine. And it's not, there's men that are type 4s, but it's just the most feminine expressing. Type 8 is the most masculine, called the challenger.
mm,
And then 5 is called the investigator. 5s by like mid-20s will have glasses because they take it,
mm,
and they almost view glasses as a way um, to almost kind of like be a little bit of a hiding way. And they
yeah, yeah.
type 5s as well. They are their favorite place is a library. They
Mm,
love information. Like that, one of the teachers that I learned from the Enneagram, he was like, they said it's almost an orgasmic experience. Just knowing that whatever they needed knowledge wise is at their fingertips. He's like, for somebody
mm,
else, that would be, a boring experience or what have you. So
mhm,
I'd be
mhm,
willing to bet that you're between 4 and 5. And what I love about the Enneagram
mhm.
is it teaches the ways in which we abandon ourselves. It's
Ooh.
it's the way in which we learned to exist in life between like ages 18, birth to like age 3. How is the world, how do I interact with this world? Maybe some are more safety conscious, some are more, essentially it is rooted in our sin. And like for
Mm,
my type
mm.
3, the sin of deceit, and it's deceit of my own heart. I'm willing to do anything
Yeah.
that you see me as inspirational. I'll sell myself down the river. I'll lie about how I feel.
Mm.
I'll lie about what reality is. Threes can be like used car salesmen as well. Well,
Mm, mhm.
dating anyway. So um, I think it's beautiful that we have all of these dimensions that we can continue to learn about ourselves, right? So
Yes. You
yeah,
know, a friend of mine actually shared this idea with me, and I've been thinking about it for a bit, and I really think it's true that sin is actually harming oneself. I mean, we know when
oh
we harm another, we're harming oneself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
ultimately, all sin is harming oneself. And
I
we harm ourselves when we actually detach from parts of ourselves, when we disassociate. And we can have been
absolutely,
taught to disassociate from aspects of ourselves because our primary caregivers or the reality or what was around us as we were developing psychologically, there
yeah,
wasn't a place for it, or it just, it wasn't encouraged or it was discouraged, whatever it was. And so then we're actually disconnected from parts of ourselves and parts of our own power, parts of our own energy. And
yes, yeah,
so that came up. I have a book on the Enneagram, and it was introduced to me many years ago. And I don't remember what it was that I identified with then. But
yeah,
when you were describing them, I do definitely feel
yeah,
like, particularly 4, I
yes,
see
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and 5, because I love information.
yeah,
But that really particularly s- like, I guess it did kind of weave in and out in my life in
mhm.
different ways, but it really, really came online when I started studying astrology. And then it was like, I just want
More,
to more,
yeah,
more, 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 more. And now, yeah, like um I yeah, it's my happy place, I guess, is the the words
yeah,
that people
yeah,
use. I love looking at information
yeah.
and understanding how it fits
Yeah.
or doesn't, or.
Well, they say your sin is also part of your gift. So, like with type fives, like
Mm.
let's say the information piece, like if I were to go into a meeting, I would absolutely want a type 5 because any document, any resource, any email, whatever it is for that meeting that I would not bring, they would have. So
Mm.
there's this, it's a gift as well. These sins are
Yeah.
gifts. We just have
Yeah.
to understand the intention of the behavior. So, like for example, type 2
Yeah.
helper, and they will literally, their value comes from helping. Like the word codependent was created for a type 2. They will
Mhm.
ingratiate and insert themselves in their lives, in your life, so that they feel useful and valuable.
Yeah.
Their core fear is that they are unlovable in some way. Um,
Yeah.
and but for type twos, where the healing comes is the help I'm providing actually helpful? Because they'll get the alcoholic the last drink.
Mhm.
And is it something that I want to do, that I have the energy to do? Because again, their gift is that they see uniquely and innately how people need help, but they're not a savior for everybody. And so that's when their
Yeah.
healing comes. Something that you said about sinning, and I made a video on this probably about a year ago. I agree with you entirely. For me, what I think of the definition of sin is to miss the mark.
Mm.
And that's actually like religiously, like that's actually the definition of sin, to miss the mark. But
Mhm.
only you can know when you've missed the mark. Because you
Mm.
inside will go, oof, that didn't feel right. Something felt off.
Yes.
that. Something for
Yes.
when
Good point.
sin is to
Love that.
miss the mark, and only you know when you've missed the mark. There's no 10 commandments that you can read that's going to go, oh, okay. It's going to be a feeling inside of
Mm.
you that is
Yes.
painful, or a pit in your stomach, or avoidant in behavior, whatever it is. Um, that's what I think of sinning as.
That's beautiful and true. I think that's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I want to contemplate on that for a
Okay.
while because
Beautiful.
I already got stuff going through my head. I mean, I just think that this is part of, I would say, this transit that I was talking about with the three conjunctions in Pisces
Yeah.
is we've often been taught these ideas of what sin is based on other people's
Yes.
ideas. But
Yes.
sin is felt within. Like you said, we
Yeah.
know when we've missed the mark. We don't need anyone to tell us that.
Yeah.
We know. And the reason I think for that is that sometimes there are things that we need to go through that we then maybe see, oh, that wasn't the best course of action, or I really fucked up there, or whatever it is, right? I hope I can say that word
You can
on here.
absolutely
Right?
say that word.
But that actually is is part of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So again, sometimes negativity is actually a great teacher to
Yeah.
positivity.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
work together,
yeah,
right? And
100%.
so, but we know internally when there's something off.
Yep.
And if we don't,
Yep.
if we don't, then it's part of whatever process is happening.
Yep.
So again, this idea that there's a God outside of ourselves
Yeah.
judging us.
Yeah.
Well, who's your God?
Yeah.
Is it your teacher who's saying you got an F on that paper?
Yeah.
Or, whatever.
Yeah.
Or, a parent saying you shouldn't have done that, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is I feel that collectively we could actually encompass more consciousness and learn more if we allow people's process. Virgo and Pisces is about process. And we're all in a learning process and we're all learning different things. And I know, this is something I have to continuously decondition from myself as well, is like where I have felt hurt or betrayed by another person's process because of where they were at,
Yeah.
but that's part of their process, of their learning process. And it's also part of my learning process where I can go, okay, well, how do I, take that information and
Yeah.
then act upon my own behalf, act
Yeah.
upon my own needs and my own values and value, right? So sin is, like you said, it's felt internally. We don't need anyone to tell us about it
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
define it for us, or
Because it's
you
fluid.
know?
Like Vanessa also said, no one outside of us is judging our sins. It's all inside.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ooh.
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's big. That's so important to keep in mind
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think we all have this internal judge going, did you
Yeah.
do that? Is that the way,
Yeah.
like, and then we project it onto other people. We think other people are seeing
Yeah.
the way in which we see.
Yeah.
And so then, yeah, we
Or
think other
even
people are
want to,
judging.
or even care to, like that our way is somehow superior to their way as well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, we have about, I don't know, let's say 15 minutes left. If you can believe that, that's the amount of time. I would like to at least share, how can people get a hold of you? What can people work with you on? Share some, and by the way, in the description box below, all of the information you sent me, whether it's your YouTube channel, etc. So it is linked below.
Okay.
But what kind of people do you work with, etc. I would love to get some of that information for folks.
Thank you so much.
Of
And
course.
by the way, thank you so much for having me on here. It's
You are
super
so
fun
welcome.
and
Yeah.
I love sharing what I do and thank you for receiving that. So so I have a website. You can see, how I've been trained and what my passions are there, and that's knowthyselfandheal.com. You can also, if your viewers are interested in astrology and astrological updates,
Yeah.
I write on Substack. And I think that link is in there. I think I did share that link with you. I'm not sure if I did or not.
I don't
I
know.
have so many links to things, but that is one place. If you're on Substack, you can find me. It's called The Labyrinth.
Mhm.
Um, and so I write there, and then I also write on my personal page on Facebook. I do lives
Mhm.
about the transits. So if you like
Mhm.
following them, you can follow me live there.
So
And then I also, write astrological updates not only on my personal page but also on my astrology page, which is Alisé Préjéan Astrology and Healing Arts. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's in
Mhm.
the process of being upgraded right now. So I haven't done I usually do full moon and new moon videos to
Okay.
give updates on how to work with the new moons and the full moons.
Okay.
And then usually in between the new moon and full moon, I'll do a video or two on the transits, whatever feels most helpful. So you can find me at Alisé A Préjéan Astrology and Healing Arts on YouTube. And on Instagram, same thing, Alisé Préjéan Astrology. I think it's just astrology. Alisé A Préjéan Astrology on Instagram. Um, so you're welcome, people are welcome to friend request me on Facebook or Instagram, or just follow me, whatever is preferred. If you do like to look at the astrology updates, and then my offerings are on my website. So I do natal astrology readings. So looking at your birth chart, and then of course, how the planets are moving through the chart through time, right? So the planetary transits. So what's current for you, and it's really important to understand that as the planets continue to move through your chart, they begin to actually aspect or basically open up different planetary functions and placements of your own chart. So when you understand how the transits are happening in your chart, you're getting the opportunity to see how things are opening up for you in order for you to actually utilize that planetary function in your own consciousness in a more expanded and expansive way, as well as effective way. I always think of the planets as they're like organs in the body. They're all functions contributing to the holistic consciousness. So all the planets are functions in consciousness. And I also think of the planets because it's been correlated that all of the chakras are connected to the planets. I always think of it like we have these chakras from root to crown.
Yeah.
The planets actually are rulers of the different chakras. And so I think of them as like there's energetic umbilical cords to the planets, just like we have an energetic umbilical cord in the mother's womb.
Yeah.
We're in the womb of this solar system. And so we have these energetic
Wow.
umbilical cords to the planet. So when different planets in our own chart get activated by the transiting planets, it opens up the chakras, begins to move energy. And this is also what then we get the reflections in the outside world in order to work with that chakra, that energy, that particular part of our consciousness to actually
Mm.
become more effective in our lives and understanding ourselves and our own power, our own creative consciousness, right? And
Yeah.
so I, of course, do work with that in individual charts. And then I also do solar return readings. So, solar return readings is when you experience your birthday. It's called the solar return,
Okay.
and that you can drop a chart for that, and it shows what the themes you're going to be working with for the year. So solar returns are great if you want to be really strategic with
Mhm.
each birth year and go, okay, these are the themes that are coming up.
Mhm.
And so how do I want to actually use this most effectively? How do I want to direct the energy?
Yeah.
So solar return readings, progress chart readings, there's all kinds of charts.
Mhm.
Um, but ultimately you always want to start with your natal
Yeah.
and the transits. And then, every year I do solar return for my own self,
Yeah. Yeah.
and invest in that for my own self. So yeah, there's all of those readings. I do regression. And I don't do a lot of nutritional counseling, although it does come into play. So that's something that I can kind of weave into the chart as well, if it's something of interest for people
to the client.
personally. So you can always come to a reading with specific themes that you're working with or
Mhm.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I had my reading, and I actually need to go back and review it. I've rewatched it a couple of times, but not fully. But it was just so detailed. It honestly, it was almost like a foreign language. I will admit, because like, of course,
Yeah.
I'm a Cancer, Scorpio rising, and then what is it? Libra is my whatever the third one is, the ascending sign, or I can't
Oh
remember.
yeah, your ascendant. Yes. I think
Cool.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I have a lot of stuff going on in Scorpio just in general.
Yes.
But outside of that, I mean, it is like Arabic. I mean, like there it is a whole
Yeah.
language. Um
Yes.
it really is. Uh and I think even every time I would watch it, I'm gonna get something different out of it that I didn't
Yeah.
even hear the first time that you said when we met. So it's just really, I would encourage anybody that is curious. Again, if you're called to it, right? Like that's, I was called to do it.
Yeah.
It felt
Yeah.
right. And outside of that, like, I mean, I remember two of the things you said, um, well, the few that I won't even recognize myself in a year. That was one of the things. It was like a highly transformative year for me, which I'm like, fuck, I've had so many transformative years lately, but I'm excited. So let's buckle up. And then uh, essentially like an 18-year or something, some sort of 18-year window was opening up for me in April. Um,
Oh.
some sort of transit, I think you would call it. And specifically on 420, whatever is aligned that day, you're like, girl, that is one of the
Yes.
luckiest I've ever seen. You're like, you need to go buy a lotto ticket that day.
Yes, I thought about that today. I was like, I still cannot believe she's having that transit.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that Jupiter Uranus conjunction is going to happen on your Venus, and that's huge
that's what
in
it was.
Taurus, which is the
Okay.
sign of what resources us.
Yeah.
We use our senses to resource us. So pay attention to your senses that day,
Okay.
or days approaching and
Leading
days
up.
after.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that would be a seed point in regards to your own identity. Why?
Okay.
Because Venus is the ruler of your ascendant sign, your rising sign. So
Okay.
I can already tell, oh yeah, you're Libra rising. Of course I would say that. Because the nodes are in Aries and Libra. So this is a seeding of your personal identity because you're a Libra rising. Anybody with Libra rising or
Okay.
Aries rising is
Okay.
going to be really likely seeding something new in regards to their identity. And then, of
Yeah.
course, how they relate to anything and everything, and how everything will then reflect that back to them, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the nodes of the moon move in 18 and a half year cycle. And so
That's
that's
what it
why I
was.
said that,
Okay.
because the
Okay.
nodes will then go back in 18 and a half years to revisit the same signs. And so yeah, for you, that would be your identity because you're a Libra rising.
Yeah.
And it is, astrology, it's basically me just translating a
Yeah.
language to you.
It's
And it's
I love
really
it.
a symbolic language of energy
Yeah.
and consciousness,
Yeah.
right? And so the thing about readings is, yeah, you'll hear something new a month from now, 5 years from now, 10
Yeah.
years from now. And that's what's so neat about readings is they're multidimensional.
Yeah.
So you'll get more, you'll hear more, you'll understand more as time goes on.
Yeah.
So at first it can be like, wow, that was a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I totally get it all, but I got some stuff. And
Yeah.
then, and then the more you listen to it, the more it's going to start to make sense.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so, you know, and what I find is typically when people have readings, they want to begin their own self investigation of their chart, which
Yeah.
I recommend.
Yeah.
Trust your own hunches and trust your own inclination or interest in going, well, what does my Venus and Taurus mean? Like, what does it mean for it to be in its own sign?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or what does Venus in Pisces mean? Like it to be in an exalted sign, or whatever. There's like
Yeah.
So much layers in one natal chart. I'm still decoding my chart, different aspects, different depths of the placements. And so yeah, just know, be aware that it is a lot of information,
Yeah.
but it's something that's why you want it recorded because you're going to hear more. And the more you listen, you're going to understand more. The more you grow and learn, the more it's going to make sense too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inside your own memories,
Yeah.
and then what you're creating, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so beautiful. Well, we are about up on time. I'm trying to think if there's I just want to say thank you so, so very much for sharing
Thank you.
your light, your consciousness. There's definitely and then Vanessa as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to share Vanessa has a YouTube channel as well. And I saw this week, I think it was this week, that she had put out a meditation, like a guided meditation, which I thought was really cool. So she's a psychotherapist who works with empaths, plant medicine, and integration of plant medicine. And
Uh-huh.
so that's kind of cool. So um, if anybody, like I said, would like to get in contact with, oh, you are so welcome, Vanessa. With Miss Alisé A Préjéan. You can look in the description box below. There are a variety of ways to get in contact with her. And just remember, if you found this video today, it's because you asked for it. There is something in your law of attraction, in your thoughts, in your vibration, and your frequency. And so even like there's moments where I find things that are triggering to me and it's like, okay, this is a teaching moment. There's something about me finding this at this time that I needed for whatever reason. So I just want to say thank you. Do you have any finishing thoughts that you would like to share with anybody before we head off?
Mm. Well, just, being aware that there are eclipses coming. So March 25th is a full moon lunar eclipse,
Okay.
and April 8th is a new moon solar eclipse.
Yes.
Yes. And so these are pretty big eclipses.
Okay.
And we also have, as we mentioned, we have Jupiter and Uranus in a conjunction in Taurus, which is pretty exciting, because it's a Venus ruled sign, and our south node of the moon and the eclipses that we're experiencing is in a Venus ruled sign as well, being Libra, right? So we're all going through a lot of shifts around our own identity,
Okay.
with the north node being in Aries, new initiations, what we desire to initiate, and which will naturally change our identities, which will naturally then reflect upon, our relationships and what resonates in our relationships, what no longer resonates in our relationships, and how we relate to anything and everything in the outside world, and how we attract things to us. Because Venus is our vibration. Venus is our heart chakra. It's actually our capacity to magnetize things to us and to repel things away from us that we just do
Mhm.
not prefer.
Mm.
So
That's
this is aspect of consciousness of projection, as well as attraction and repulsion, is what we're actually, it's really highlighted right now in our lives. And
okay.
so whatever it is that is coming into our lives or moving away from our lives, honoring that is really important. And it doesn't mean that all relationships will end or relationships have to end. They just may shift and change too.
Too, absolutely. Like I said earlier, if the actors in your story aren't fulfilling you or aren't playing the role, like they can be second players, like they can be people background, they don't have to be on the main stage. Or maybe there's a background
Yes.
to the actors. 100%.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
the star of your own show.
Exactly. Just remember you're
And
not everybody else's, you're not the center of everybody else's. That's
exactly, exactly, exactly. Remember, you're the leading role in your life, and
yes.
other people are the leading roles in their lives.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and just, honoring both sides
Yeah.
honoring
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
whatever it is that we personally feel called to, and really ultimately our own healing work, and um, really shaping what's coming and what's new, because Pluto is just moved into Aquarius, and this is going to expose what's inhibiting our own personal creativity and our own personal creative
Yeah.
creation story, right?
That's
So
beautiful.
yeah, these are, I think, very exciting times,
Yeah.
but probably a lot is getting uprooted right now,
Yeah.
and just really honoring your own desires and your own inclinations, your own um, evolutionary momentum is important.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's like in yoga, the highest in me sees the highest in you, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you again. Thank you so
Thank
much, Miss
you.
Vanessa, for joining us. And then, yeah, uh, we'll see you this Thursday. I will be live at noon Pacific time for a live channeled reading if you'd like to join. We'll see you then.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.